elder advisors, don't go broke in a nursing home. Okay, here's the scenario, Larry, because I bet you get this one. Okay, we're going to have to give up the house.
Yeah.
You know, we've had the house in our family our entire lives. We have a lot of great memories there, and now we got to sell. Yeah. True or false?
The fear that people have, that's very real, and it's very unfortunate that it is real. What's interesting is for husband and wife, the house, their primary residence is excluded. That means it's off the table. You know, so if dad's in care, mom's keeping the house. But I don't know how many times I've sat down with families, because I tell families my goal at this first meeting is, at a minimum, you don't feel any worse after the hour. But most people, you feel better. And so that's pretty easy when I can see mom just, oh, I thought I was going to lose the house. I couldn't keep my house. And that's the barbershop law I was telling you about. You know, so many people, it's amazing. So many people just operate
almost everyone.
Yeah.
I think I hear that with almost every meeting.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that's kind of sad.
It is sad. It is. That's why they need to come to the workshop and hear the good news as Steve Langdon talks about.
Or that you have to get a divorce. I mean, that's one of my saddest ones I have to hear, because that's not true. You do not have to do that.
My wife thinks that news is great. Really? Do I have to? Yes.
But you can make it an option. But for Medicaid planning, it's not necessary.
You can make it an option.
You know, it's not necessary. But that's what's so bad. There's so many people out there working on this completely disinformation that it may be well-intentioned, but it's wrong. So mom is going to get to keep the house if dad goes into care. You don't have to get divorced to protect the assets. That's just wrong on so many levels I can't tell you. It's so wrong for that. But what's interesting is, even for single people, you know, because we can normally keep about half of the assets, and often we can still keep the house for a brother, a family member, or just a good friend of the family. But that's kind of my secret recipe. I'm not going to disclose on TV or even at the workshop. That comes out, you know, my skill set at 26 years. But we do that working within the rules. It's all disclosed. Yes. You know, but you know, Steve Langdon, he's almost involved in every one of these cases, because we do need the legal part to do that. That's why we're delighted Steve will be there tomorrow as our elder law superstar attorney. Steve is very shallow and insecure. He likes this. I'm a keynote speaker. I'm like, I think the build-up, and that was your plug, keynote. I think elder law superstar attorney for the universe, Steve Langdon. But evidently, he likes your keynote. It hurts me, John.
Keynote speaker.
Yeah, he lives for that.
And there are strategies not only involving the home, but as you said, they're legal. But if you're not aware of them, then hey, they don't mind sending you that bill as long as you keep paying it. Right?
Absolutely. And like, I keep going back to Kara this morning just because it was our most recent appointment. This is Kentucky. Mother has a couple $100,000 in IRA accounts. Those are excluded. I mean, they're off the table.
I didn't know that.
That's right. In Kentucky.
Exempt in Kentucky, but
not in Indiana. In Indiana, it's part of the spin
all these rules I'm not
right. It's huge. It's a huge
But for now, the required distribution that gets, you know, they say, well, it sends her $200 a month. That is factored into her liability, her income that would go to the nursing home, but not the asset itself. So Autumn and I work to make sure the beneficiaries are updated correctly. So if mother does pass, then the IRA is going to go to the children, things like that, avoiding problems. That's all what estate planning is, because I'm not an attorney, Kentuckiana.
Okay, a lot of this is numbers related, law related. Okay, now let's talk about the emotions that are involved. You guys, it has to be tough sometimes to navigate around, you know, okay, who is the power of attorney? And then you've got the other side. So I may not be power of attorney, but I know what mom wants, or I know what dad wants. That's got to be tough.
Yeah, and we don't mind talking to the non-power of attorney.
Right, but key is power of attorney. People need power of attorney.
Right.
No, so what you're saying is I don't mind talking to them, but as far as the ultimate answer is going to come with power of attorney, so that's part of pre-planning. Get ready.
Right, and I don't mind talking to a family member that's not the power of attorney, but I will tell you, I'm not going to give all my life energy to the non-power of attorney, because I'm spinning my wheels. I'm wasting my time.
Yeah, the power's not in their hands, so we need that person to come in and just kind of own it. And you know, but if you don't have it, come into the workshop. It's another good reason to come in, and you can learn why you need that.
Yeah, and then I've had someone come in and say, well, I'm the one that's taking care of mom and dad all the time, but my sister is power of attorney, she's not involved. Does that sound familiar, Kentucky? There's a lot of people like that. And I'm like, unless some things change, I mean, I'll give them a brief overview because I want to be of some help. But I'm like, I'm talking to the wrong person here. The power of attorney is the one that needs to step up and do this. And so I'll give them some information, but it's going to be a short meeting, because I'm talking to the wrong people.
So at this workshop, we've talked about real estate now, you know, keeping the home. We've talked about power of attorney. We've talked about some of the legal angles, strategies. There's so many different layers here. So is it an overview of everything, or do you give them information they can actually apply now?
No, they can apply now, because one of the questions people have for Steve being the attorney, because I'm not, is let's say, well, you know, 6 months ago, I went ahead and put my 2 kids on the deed to the house. And, you know, I know Steve from the legal part because I'm not an attorney, but I've heard Steve say many times that can be be very problematic, because if the kids are involved in a car accident, a lawsuit, a bankruptcy, a divorce, a judgment entered against them, yeah, very likely it's going to cause a big problem for mom. And from there it just goes downhill. And that's what we call quick and dirty planning. That's not very good planning. There's better ways of addressing that. That's the benefit of coming out to the workshop and talking with Steve. He always hangs around for a little bit after the workshop, because usually there's a little bit of a line with Tim setting the appointments, and even Autumn to a degree. But Steve makes himself available for little questions and stuff like that to answer. I mean, make use of that. Kentuckiana, you've got an attorney that was a former prosecutor in Clark County, across the river in Jeffersonville. He's now in private practice, both sides of the river. You could not have a better advocate than Steve.
Yeah,
he gets out of the office.
He's great.
He
knows
goes to
his
banks.
stuff, and he'll go to bat for no matter, you know, what the situation.
Well, I think it's interesting. We can say that Steve's not here, but I think
it's a better show without him.
Because
I miss Steve personally. I miss Steve.
Yeah,
I love Steve. Well, because he had a brother who was affected, he said, "I don't want this to happen again." He was litigating him, and he was, and then he said, you know, for this to happen to someone and all the assets, and there was nothing we could do because we didn't know the rules.
He had to learn a very hard lesson.
And you know, it's very telling, because Steve always talks about his brother Tom. I never met Tom. I knew his mother because I worked through his mother, getting some assets off the table using a funeral trust. We talked about in an earlier segment. But I think it's quite telling, and I think it's quite humbling for Steve. You know, he was an attorney. He was a lawyer. He practiced on both sides of the river. He's in the prosecutor's office. He knew zero, less than zero about Medicaid. And he said, I carry that burden to the rest of my life, that his two daughters have nothing. Where if I had known the things I know now, we could have kept the house, we could have kept these assets. But Steve was talking to all of his other people in the world, came up with zero. That's why you need to come to the workshop, Kentuckiana. Freeworkshop.com, 855-LARRY55. The hardest part about coming to the workshop is just having your cup of coffee and dusting yourself off and coming out. You'll be home by lunch tomorrow. But it's good information. Steve is a delight with the people. He's very affable. He's very down to earth, answering these questions. We have a lot of fun, but it's serious stuff.
It is serious stuff. So, Autumn, I have to ask you, on this show, it's very entertaining. Larry's very entertaining.
Yeah.
So does he keep it entertaining? Because I've been to some of these like seminars and workshops. Some of them are related to television, and I'm about to nod off. He won't do that to you,
I don't think he can. I think he'd call you out if you nodded off anyway. But
no, you are excited.
He always gives it a little
fun.
fun, but he does get very serious at the same time. So because it's tough stuff, and you know, we have to break it down and keep it serious. But you know, you see what you get's what you see, what you get, whatever, however you want to say or do it. That's it. And even at the meetings that we do, when we do one-on-one meetings, I mean, people think sometimes, my gosh, she's so crazy. But I mean, we have to have fun. I mean, you know, sometimes I've teared up in meetings. There's different things, but when you've got someone like Larry that can perk it right back up and keep everybody focused and happy and smiling. I mean, it makes our day fun, and I think it keeps our clients happy at the end of the day. It's just something he brings to the table that you don't get everywhere else.
I prefer that delivery. I want to, you know,
I try to give him away to everybody.
You still get good information. You still get good information.
But the other thing is, I introduced Autumn at the workshop at the beginning, and then she is the voice of Elder.
I'm not a big talker.
No, she's not, but you've done great today and yesterday. But Autumn is the voice of Elder Advisors, because when she calls the families to set appointments or follow up on appointments and stuff, it's almost always Autumn calling. They get her cell numbers. We don't hide from people. They have her cell numbers. I'm answering an email last night to Laura, getting that taken care of. Tim's working on that. But Autumn, really, in the last couple of years, has really just stepped up her game. I couldn't be more proud of her. I'm being very genuine right now.
Thank you.
She's really grown up big time. She owns it. She's always taken on more responsibility and stuff. The clients love her. She's very gracious. Autumn makes herself available with the appointments, the phone. She's always answering stuff like that. But she is the voice of the company. She always knows what her schedule is and stuff like that. And she's doing the pre-planning. She was at a bank yesterday with a family. You know, I was at a meeting yesterday with the lady. We were doing the funeral trust. I'm asking Autumn. She's distracted because she's on the phone with the business office manager trying to get a bed reserved for someone.
So many things going on. And I like to answer my people, you know, immediately as fast as I can, because they get really nervous
because you
sometimes.
care. That's what it's about.
Yeah, you got to make sure everybody stays, you know, 100.
There we go.
Together.
Well, let's put the information on the screen, Warren, Tom, as we close up here.
Freeworkshop.com.
Freeworkshop.com. And it is tomorrow night. There is the info.
10 a.m.
And it's good news, Kentuckiana. Larry, thank you so much. Autumn, as always, thank you as well.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Kentuckiana.
All righty, and we'll see you at the workshop. We'll take a break, and then Dawn G will tell you what's coming up at 2 o'clock. Or no, actually at 1 o'clock, because we're moving because of the Olympics. But you won't miss an episode, we promise you, of Days of Our Life. We'll be right back.